What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Pastor Keenan with his sidekick, Nick. What's up, man? Talk to me.
I know, I'm sitting here trying to think, I told myself I'm going to start asking myself, like, what's one positive thing that happened today?
Hey.
So that way I can start trying to come up with something a little bit happier.
Yeah.
When we're doing this on Tuesday. But, I got a lot done today. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely.
I went to the eye doctor, got stuff ready for a new job, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. But, like I said, there's always some good out of a bad day.
God is not only blessing you with a new job, but a, $4 pay raise. Am I right?
$4.50 an hour.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That is something to praise about, right?
Exactly. We're getting there. We're getting somewhere.
Absolutely,
change is
man.
happening. There's other things, too, coming up, too, soon that I plan on moving forward with. So, hopefully there's going to be some good stuff coming.
Good deal, man. Good deal. And, we all know what that means. You make more money, you pay more money. Sorry. Wah, wah, wah.
Thanks, IRS.
Yeah. So, either way, man. But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Everyday Christian, where we talk about the struggles of Christianity. And we talk about the sermon from the previous week and, how we break it down just a little bit further and, go ahead and try to make it applicable. Man, I made it through that word. To your everyday life. So, if you want to, you can always check us out on Facebook at Fruition Church. You can check us out on YouTube at Fruition Church of Hodgenville. You can check us out through this podcast, through all major platforms, The Everyday Christian, or you can always check out our website at www.fruitionchurchky.org. And as always, we say, Nick, if there is not an area or an avenue that we are in yet, give us a shout. We will try to get into that because we are all about reaching more people, building the kingdom, and just taking this ministry to the next level. We were actually just talking about that beforehand. But last Sunday, man, we celebrated, Nick, 5 years of ministry. Woo. That was more claps than I got on Sunday. No, I'm just playing, man.
If they'll let you down, I'll put you up.
Absolutely. I do appreciate that. But no, man, it was a great time, great service. Appreciated everybody for being there. We had a photographer on hand to be able to take pictures and be able to kind of document everything.
We sound bougie now.
I know, right? Exactly. And I'm going to, one of these days, man, we're going to get a videographer, I think, in there. Yeah, I think that's what they're called, right?
Sure.
And and we're gonna get somebody in there to kind of just make a hype video, man. I feel like that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, food, celebration, just to be able to see people there, man, it was an amazing time. Thankful to God that we've made it for 5 years. Excited about the next 5 years and where we go, what we do, how God's going to do it. And Nick, just man, how did you feel about Sunday? How did you think everything went?
I think it went pretty well. Food was great. We got to experience that. Fellowship was great. Didn't talk to some
Why did you start with food before anything?
Hey, I mean, because listen, whatever brings people to church brings them to church. Woo! Then they're going to experience the actual good
there you go, man. There you go. I give you that.
But yeah, I mean, it was all great. Heck, you got a clap out of me when nobody else clapped. So you got something you don't get very often.
True statement. You're usually throwing rocks at me, but I'll take a clap.
Yeah, but you got it. But seriously though, it was a good kickoff to what we're going to experience in this 5th year. We talked about that in the last podcast about that look ahead.
Right.
We got some great things coming. Some good things that are going to start. And we're going to see some great return on that thanks to Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So the title for Sunday's message was Starting from Nothing. Starting from nothing. I think you can raise your hand because most people, unless you've been fed with the silver spoon or you've had a lot of money passed down to you, most people are going to start from the ground up and work their way up. So I'm pretty sure that you can identify with this message. If not, stay tuned. And we're going to see if we can't make this message, kind of take some hold in your life. But it's coming from Ruth Chapter 2. And we're going to start in verse 2. And again, we're starting from nothing. Okay, so listen to this. It says, One day Ruth, the Moabite foreigner, said to Naomi, I'm going to work. I'm going out to glean among the sheaves, following after some harvester who will treat me kindly. Naomi said, Go ahead, dear daughter. And so she set out. She went and started gleaning in a field, following in the wake of the harvesters. Eventually, she ended up in the part of the field owned by Boaz, her father-in-law, Elimelech's relative. And a little later, Boaz came out from Bethlehem, greeting his harvesters. God be with you. And they replied, and God bless you. Boaz asked his young servant, who was foreman over the farmhands, who is this young woman, and where did she come from? And the foreman said, why, that's the Moabite girl, the one who came with Naomi from the country of Moab. And she asked permission. Let me glean, she said, and gather among the sheaves, following after your harvesters. She's been at it steady ever since, from early morning until now, without so much as a break. So let's pick this story up. Ruth 2, verse 2. We've got Ruth. She's back in Bethlehem with Naomi, Nick. She has no credit, no street cred whatsoever. She has no importance attached to her name. Nobody knows who she is. In fact, yet, absolutely. In fact, she is known as the foreigner who came with Naomi back to Bethlehem. That's basically what she's known as. But let's pick this up right here. We pick this up in a conversation Ruth is having with Naomi. She literally looks at Naomi one day and says, I'm going to work. I'm going to work. She can't sit around and wait for God to do something. She can't sit around and basically think that God's just going to drop food in her lap every day. She can't sit around. You know, she has to take things into her own hands. Now, I'm not saying that you should do this with every situation in your life. I'm not saying you shouldn't be patient and wait on God. What I am saying is that sometimes before God helps us, He has to be willing to see if we're going to be able to help ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, and I think that's just it's crazy to think, you know, how lazy sometimes we can be as Christians. You know, we just sit back, you know, in our lazy boy chairs, expecting God to do, you know, whatever we ask of Him. Like a genie in a bottle. You made that description several times in service, and but that's not what God is. You know, He's not a genie in a bottle. You know, if you rub Him the right way, He ain't going to give you everything that you could possibly ask for. You know, there's that whole thing, you know, where you hear people say it all the time, you know, faith without works is dead. Yeah. You know, you can't just sit there and expect God to drop everything in your lap. I mean, that's just not how it works. That's not how life works. That's not how Christianity works. Right. You know, and I think that's just an important thing for us to remember. You know, as we're moving through this thing called life, you know, and especially these days when we are all struggling with, you know, work and finances. And, you know, I think I saw, you know, I think last year was labeled the great, like everybody was leaving works, like they were all leaving jobs, like it's pretty crazy to think, you know, how we have turned work into something so negative. You know, it's hard to think, you know, we're sitting there like, okay, I got this job, and the only reason I have this job is because I have to survive. Right. You know, and I think that's, I saw, or I think I read or watched something the other day about this guy. He was talking about, you know, like money isn't everything. You know, you need to do what makes you happy. That's what's important. But, you know, again, in this situation, you know, sometimes we have to really, you know, start from nothing, start from nowhere, and work our way up and work our way into the promises of God, because, you know, He wants to make sure that you are faithful with a little before He blesses you with a lot.
Absolutely, man. And I'll never forget, I was doing a baccalaureate service for a class from where I'm from, and you know, I basically looked at them and told them one time, I said, you know, this world needs janitors just like it needs doctors. You know, this world needs factory workers just like it needs surgeons. You know, like the thing about it is that, you know, sometimes, man, you're going to have to start from the bottom. Sometimes you're going to have to start with nothing. Sometimes you're going to have to start, you know, from the floor and work your way up. That's just how it is. And I like Ruth's mentality here, because she looks at Naomi and she says, I'm not going to sit around. I'm not just going to wait for something to happen. I'm going to go make something happen. You know, she takes charge and she's going to make something happen. She's not going to starve to death. She's not going to, you know, just wait for somebody to randomly drop by and maybe offer a rice cake or something, you know, like she's going to go get stuff done. And then she says how she's going to get stuff done. She says, you know what? I'm going to go out in the fields. I'm going to glean from the fields. I'm going to follow the harvesters. And you know what? There's going to be a harvester that's really nice to me. And I talked about on Sunday, Nick, how it just spoke to me whenever she said, there's going to be a harvester that's going to be really nice to me. You know, she was speaking blessings over her future. She was speaking blessings over what she was about to do. She was speaking positivity over what she was about to do. The Bible says that there's the power of life and death lies in the tongue, and I think honestly sometimes we can kill our dreams before we even try to step into them, just speaking doubt and negativity over it. I'm not going to go Joel Osteen on you and say everything with a smile, because it hurts my face to do all of that. But at the same point in accord, I think it's very important as a mindset, and even as you speak that positivity and you speak that word over your life, over your future, over what you're about to do, I think it makes a huge difference in what you're setting out to do, right?
Yeah, I think success starts with a mindset.
Absolutely.
There is incredible power in positivity, and I think that's something we get so backwards. We're like, why am I so depressed? Well, because you're acting depressed.
Right.
And it's hard. That's not for me to say that's an easy thing. When you're down and depressed, to just sit there and speak
just
positivity.
Pull yourself
over your life,
out.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard. It's extremely difficult. We've experienced that even recently. Just sitting there down in the dumps, just trying to figure out, how do I pull myself up, by the bootstraps and feel better about everything that's going on. And that's where you have to look into positivity. God has always brought you out of every situation that you've been in.
Right.
You've been down in the dumps before. You've been lost, broken, broke. Whatever you want to throw in there, whatever adjective, but God has made you God has helped you make it through that situation, whatever situation that may be. So just remember, and to have that positivity mindset, that faith mindset really is what it is believing in the unseen, because that's what faith is seeing the unseen.
Right.
You may be sitting there thinking, that nothing's ever going to get better and that, things are too tough right now to make it, but you have to try and change that mindset and speak positivity over your situation rather than death.
Yeah.
Because if you sit there and think, things are not going to get any better than they are right now.
They're always,
not. Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
Exactly. If you sit there and tell yourself things are not going to get any better, they're probably not going to get any better.
Right.
You don't have to ask a Christian to find that answer out.
Exactly.
You can go ask a business leader.
Yeah.
You can go ask, an executive, somebody out there, and be like, if you speak negativity and death over your finances and your investments, you're going to see negativity and death.
Absolutely.
So, again, this is a mindset that you don't have to be a Christian to have this mindset. This is a mindset that, everybody needs to try and grasp a hold of. That positivity is what really sells in society today.
Right.
If you want to be successful, you have to have a positive mindset. You have to have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
You have to have a faithful mindset, even if you don't believe in the whole concept of faith.
Right.
You do. You may think you don't, but you do, because again, it all kind of ties together.
Well, I think faith to a non-believer is consistency.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that is a non-believer's faith is consistency. Mm-hmm. Like, you can, if you stay consistent in whatever you do, you're going to see some kind of progress from it.
How many people are, sitting there investing their money, their time, their effort into whatever, venture that they're trying to fight into,
right.
And they're like, I'm going to plant this seed and I'm going to hope that it grows. That's faith. That's putting your money into something and expecting to see an outcome of it. And it's a little bit different, a little described a little bit different, but, in a sense, it is technically putting your faith in whatever it is that you're investing.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that we as Christians should be on the lookout for to help evangelize. Hey, that business leader who doesn't believe in God, who doesn't believe in, having faith in something, point them out to when they first started their job, when they started from nothing.
Yeah.
You put faith in your venture, you put faith in the people around you, and you saw a return in that investment.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing applies with God. And I think that's a good way for us to reach people in their own mindset, in their own life, and their own livelihoods, is to kind of point out that comparison there and to kind of help them understand that, this faith concept isn't something alien.
Right.
It's something that we've all dealt with at some point or another. And it's something that you've seen success with. You had faith in this investment and it returned good for you.
Right, absolutely.
And the same thing can happen with God.
Absolutely, man. And I like Naomi. She says, "Go ahead, dear daughter." And I was reading that and I kind of thought, if you revert back to Ruth 1, she's still bitter, because she lost her son, she lost her husband. So I could almost see her commenting like, "Go ahead, dear daughter." Like, I could almost see her being like, "Go ahead, whatever, we'll see what you really come back with." But the Bible says, so she set out and she went and started gleaning in a field, following in the wake of the harvesters. Now, Nick, gleaning is something for foreigners. and for poor people. Okay, like you have to, and we reverted back to Leviticus 19, and that's the forgotten book of the Bible because nobody cares about Levitical law. But back then they followed Levitical law. You know what I'm saying? And it's like these rules and stuff were put into place for foreigners and for poor people. So basically, what would happen is that they would harvest a field. They would leave the outside ring. They would also leave what they considered scrap or not very good produce or whatever, not produce like milk and eggs, whatever, but like wheat, stuff like that, man. They would leave that stuff behind that they didn't think that they could use, and then the foreigners and the poor people were the ones who would come in the backside and pick that up and use that. So, I mean, literally, Ruth started from the bottom. Ruth started, basically as a foreigner, as a poor person, whatever the case you want to say, whatever it might be. That's how she started. And it really, it really spoke to me because, she didn't walk into this situation thinking that she was owed something, thinking that she had to have something, thinking that something had to be given to her or whatever the case is. Like, she went in with the mindset to work. I'm going to work and I'm going to get this. I'm going to, she came in with the mindset. And it says, watch this. It says, eventually she ended up in the part of the field owned by Boaz, her father-in-law, Elimelech's relative. So, Nick, she literally kept working so much, so hard. She wasn't focused on anybody else or anything else. She put her head down, and this is the point that I wanted to drive home to people on Sunday. I told this story at the girls' home on Monday. This is the part that I really wanted to drive home to people: is looks will always fade, no matter what. I don't care. You can put thousands of dollars, into yourself to make yourself look good over time, whatever. Looks will always fade, okay? But what, and I told this Sunday, I told this Monday, and I'm fixing to tell it again tonight. What will get you noticed more than anything in life is your work ethic. How you show up, how you do the job, how you leave the job, and if you're willing to come back to the job. Mm-hmm. That gets you noticed more than anything, because people then know that you are committed, you're serious, you're in this for the long haul, you want to see a good outcome from it, and that gets you noticed. I think it's amazing right here. Of course, nothing happens by coincidence, Nick, but I think it's amazing. She went out with the mindset, I'm just going to follow behind. I'm going to eat the scraps, and I said this Sunday, sometimes you got to eat the scraps before you eat the feast. Sometimes you got to be not complacent, but you got to be satisfied with getting by until God blesses you with more than enough. But so she just kept working hard, man, and she wasn't paying attention to everything else that was going on around her. She didn't care whose field she was in. She didn't care who else was harvesting. She didn't care how much was left. She just kept on working into what was in front of her, man. And I think if there is a power message that you can give Christians out there tonight, you can literally look at them and go, hey, how about you not worry about what's going on around you? Just stay focused on working in front of you. Mm-hmm. And then wherever you end up is wherever you end up. Because she ended up, Nick, in a field of a man who had influence. He had power. Not only that, he had a position in the community. People looked up to him. People respected him. But not only that, he was also in the bloodline of a soon-coming king named King David as well. And it's wonderful how God can use foreigners like that, people that other people would write off, to bring a promise forth like that. But, Nick, talk to me a little bit about just a work ethic, what it means, showing up, doing the job, not worrying about how other people are harvesting their fields. Tell me about that, man.
Yeah, a work ethic is something that's very central. Again, this is one of those things that can apply to, someone who has faith, and who is a Christian, and someone who isn't. Work ethic is something that is extremely important to everyone in this in society. Being able to have an employee that you can count on, that you can rely on, someone who's going to be there day in, day out, that's going to do their job, and who's going to do it to the best of their ability. Yeah. And then we look into the Bible and we find that this is something that's extremely important to even Jesus, talking about, like if if your master tells you to, walk 1 mile, walk 2.
Right.
If your master tells you to do, this small task, do that plus some.
Right.
Making sure that that work ethic is something that exhibits Christ's his love, his ability for the world,
Right.
and what he exhibited in the world is what we need to exhibit in the world, his desire and ability to go and do for others even beyond what a normal person would do.
Right.
And that's what's so important to remember here. We see it all the way back here in Ruth, of somebody who's willing to sit there and do the nasty, dirty work, as we see fast forward a little bit, someone who's willing to wash somebody else's feet.
Right.
And to do a job that, other people would frown upon, other people would, look down upon. Those people who are willing to do that with the little situations, the little things in life are going to be rewarded a lot later in life.
Yeah.
I think back to the story of that woman who told Jesus, even the dogs get the scraps from the table.
Right.
And because of her saying that, Jesus healed her daughter.
Right.
And it's just crazy to think, you think about how you can use, or how God can use a little, or how God can use someone who's working with a little.
Right.
And eventually evolve that and turn that into something great, because you were, again, the parable of someone who is faithful over a little,
right.
and then being
I'll
blessed
make
with
you
a
rulers
lot.
over a much one day, right?
Yep, exactly. And I think that's something that, we need to remember as the everyday Christian, is that, maybe you're in, and I think you said this, and it really resonated with me, maybe you're in a job that you hate right now,
right.
It's a job that you don't like, a job that's not glamorous or exciting, but, if you were faithful with that little job, that job you don't like, God is going to see that, and he's going to reward you with something better.
Yeah.
If you remain faithful to him, and if you remain, faithful to that work ethic, if you keep moving forward.
I'm a janitor, dog.
Right.
I'm a janitor, bro. You know what I'm saying? But hey, I tell you what,
Mm-hmm.
those toilets, they looking good. That floor's looking good. That trash is out. You know what I'm saying? I do it to the best of my ability. You know what I'm saying? And then whenever God decides to move, he moves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But, if I can't steward that, that's something, I'm glad you brought that up, because, I've had to learn that jobs are important regardless of title. They're important. And, it's like, I have to really go back and remind myself of that, of hey, look, you got to start small sometimes. You got, if God can't trust you to clean a toilet, how's he going to trust you to guide a ministry? Mm-hmm. If you believe that you're above that, and I truly think that's why Ruth was as successful as what she was in getting to that field where Boaz owned, was because she was not above gleaning. She was not above the scrap. She was not above. She was humble. And God can do a lot with humble people. And in fact, we say it all the time, pride is the biggest downfall and probably the biggest blocker of blessings that there is out there, because pride leads into a whole nother field of whether it be disobedience or whatever the case is, But one thing that Ruth was not was prideful, and I have to remind myself of that. And in fact, that's what I've tried to work on here over the last 3 weeks, a month. I've had to really remind myself, of just, hey, Keenan, you're not too good to do stuff. You're not too good to do this. You're not too far along to do this now. I've had to always remind myself. And I'll tell you one instance, man, and then we'll close this thing out. I had a situation happen to me this week. I guess it was Monday. I had yesterday. Had a situation happen to me, and it was a disagreement over some money, and it was a pretty large sum. And usually, Nick, if it was over something like money like that, man, I would be tore all to pieces. I would get mad. I would get angry. A lot of different things. But I kept my cool, and that was the first time I'd done that, man, in a long time. And hey, I'm a Christian, but I'm normal, I have flesh. And it was a fact of, man, where I kept my cool, I kept my calm, and the first thing I said to myself was, God will work it out. God will take care of it. God will provide for it. And about 30 minutes later, after that discussion, I had an opportunity to pray with a young man that was going back to college. And, and I thought to myself, if I had let that previous situation get at me, get under my skin, get me angry, get me disgruntled, get me unfocused, I might not have prayed for that young man. I'll be completely honest. I might have just been like, yo, man, be good, take care, God bless, whatever, But the opportunity of me just saying, Lord, I trust you. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep committed. I'm going to keep pushing and trying. That allowed me to have a mindset, and it led me to an opportunity to be able to pray with a young man, before he left. And, hopefully that planted a seed or two. I mean, he's a Christian. He's a good Christian on top of that. But, hopefully he was like, man, I can, I'll be honest. I mean, one of the prayers I prayed was that, God make him into a David, that he can stand up against giants no matter where he goes and be that sort of leader. But I praise God because, if I hadn't had that kind of like that Ruth mindset of where I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to glean. There's going to be moments I'm going to glean. I'm not always going to be, blessed with abundance. Sometimes I'm going to have to glean to make it, and, I think if we have that mindset, Nick, we won't be, maybe near as disappointed, I guess maybe is what I want to say, in the process. I think I talked about Sunday about how, we've fallen for this masquerade of when we believe in Jesus, we're just going to have more than enough of everything. And I think that's a dangerous teaching. I think, kind of like what I said Sunday, if you have more than what you had, that's more than enough, right? Because what you had before was enough. You survived. You made it. You were making it. But if God blesses you with more, that's more than enough. That's abundance, and I think that's a good way to look at it. Share your thoughts on that, Nick, before we get to the final point here of just driving this home about Ruth and Boaz and work ethic and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here trying to think of a way not to step on people's toes here in just a second, but don't
do that, man.
No,
we can't downsize. We're trying to build up our audience,
but we also need to build up a faithful servant leading audience here. And I think one of the important things that we need to remember as an everyday Christian, and you actually said this Sunday, we have so many Christians today that are walking into a church like, hey, give me a CEO position, give me a supervisor position.
Right.
But, we have a serious need in churches across America of actual servant leaders. And when I say that, I mean like actual people who are willing to show up and to give God a little before they're blessed with something much bigger.
Absolutely.
And we have so many people, this is things that you said on Sunday. I mean, we have 100 people.
Are you using my words? I am.
I'm getting
so you're
there.
using my words against me?
No, not against you.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay,
against the congregation. So we have 100 people show up on Sunday and 10 people who do all the work.
Right.
It's something that you said. I think it's something that is not just a problem at Fruition. It's a problem at churches across America. Maybe you don't go to Fruition and you listen to this.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there thinking, I'm too good to clean toilets, or I'm too good to get trash and take it out, or I'm too good to run the soundboard, or I'm too good to switch slides, or I'm too good to do this, that, or the other. And I think it's something that we need to remember is that Christ came and humbled himself more than anyone in the history of history ever has.
Right.
I mean, he was God and he came down to earth as a human being.
Right.
And not only that, he was born in like a pig trough. He was born and laid in the nastiest place that a human could think of at the time. And it's crazy to think that we in 2022 think that we're too good to take the trash out.
Yeah.
That we come into church and we have to be in a leadership position. We have to lead, guide, and direct a bunch of people. We have to be in a supervisor role. But I mean, that's not being a Christian. That's not being Christ-like.
Right.
And I think that's something that we need to remember is, we need to come into church with the servant mindset. We need to come into church thinking that I'm not too good to do this. I'm not too good to do that. And I need to start small. I need to start gleaning in church. Taking the small responsibilities, taking that stuff up and running with it, and doing our dangest at it, doing our darndest at, with these small tasks, and eventually
it's all right, man. Right? Listen, you can drop a word, man. I'll pray for forgiveness for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But I think it's just important for us as Christians to remember that, just as Ruth did, she stuck her nose to the ground and just kept working, and eventually she was blessed because of that.
Absolutely.
And just think about, everybody had to start somewhere. Everybody had to start at nothing. I mean, you think about starting at McDonald's, you're working as a little cash register person or somebody who's flipping burgers. You know, you have to start there before you can become a manager or before you can become a regional manager or a general manager, whatever you want to call it. You know, you have to start somewhere, and I think we have to remember that as Christians, is that we have to start somewhere. We can't just walk in and expect everything to fall at our feet. You know, we have to get in there. We have to do the work. Right. You know, we can't just sit there, and we also can't just sit there and do nothing. You know, I think that's another thing to remember too.
Right.
But you know, we just need to make sure that we're remembering that, you know, as an everyday Christian, that, you know, we need to put our nose to the ground and do the small grunt work. You know, we need to help out because, again, it takes everybody. Everybody is a part of the church body. You know, sometimes you have to be the foot before you can be the face, you know, and like just remembering that, that growth takes time, growth takes effort. It takes that positive mindset that, yes, I'm doing this. It's not fun. I don't like it. I don't like taking the trash. I don't like cleaning toilets. I don't like sweeping and vacuuming, but eventually I'm going to be able to do more for the kingdom of God as time moves on.
Right.
So just remembering that mindset, I think, is extremely important for us Christians.
Absolutely, man. And that brings us to our last point. I'm glad you was talking about, you know, work ethic and stuff, because that puts us into this, and then I'll talk a little bit, let you kind of throw your thoughts into it, and then, like I said, man, this will do it for another episode. But, you know, the Bible says that Ruth just kept working. She kept doing her thing. Boaz comes out. He greets the harvesters, and then he looks over at his foreman, and he says, "Who is this lady?" You know, like, what's she doing, man? And I like what the foreman said, because he says, well, that's Ruth. You know, that's the foreigner. She came in with Naomi. But here's what she done. She came up to me and she asked. She asked permission, you know, to be able to do the small things. You know, that's pretty impressive. You know what I'm saying? First off, that's pretty impressive. After she got permission, I like what the Bible says when it says she's been steady at it since the morning. She's been steady at it. And that's what I was talking about, Nick, with consistency. That's what I'm talking about with just anything. If you want to see results in anything, you have to be steady with it. You have to be consistent with it. You know, I know you get down sometimes about the podcast and about, you know, the number of listeners we get or
those
whatever.
Weeks we get 9 listeners.
Yeah, you know, I know you get down about that sometimes, man. But honestly, like, no joke. You know, if we go from being consistent into, well, we're just going to drop one Tuesday a month, or it might be a random Wednesday or something like that, I promise you those listeners that we do have now are probably going to go down from that. But if we stay consistent every Tuesday, dropping this out, you know, I promise you over time it will get bigger, you know. Just like church, man. We had church, and what happened? Every Sunday, every Wednesday, we consistently got bigger. You know, even through a pandemic, we consistently got bigger. You know, everything that happens, man, I truly think is through consistency, a.k.a. faith. To be able to put your hand to the plow, to keep working, and know that when the time is right, when the moment is right, when God is orchestrating something together, that at that moment you don't have to wave your hands and clap your hands and say, "I'm here, look at me," whatever, notice me. In the moment, I truly think that when God is ready, He's going to reveal you in a situation where it's like, man, I tell you what, they have been putting in the steady work, you know, since morning time, since the availability to do the work, they've been doing the work, you know, and then because of that, that's going to get you noticed. That's going to get you noticed. Kind of like with your job. I mean, we've talked about it time in and time out of how you just kept on putting in application after application, resume after resume, you know, like, when's it going to happen? Where's it coming from? Whatever else. And because you were consistent with that, now you're walking into a job with a $4 pay raise. You know, the consistency part, man, makes so much of a difference. If we were Fruition Church and we only had service every now and again on a Sunday, I truly don't think we would be where we are 5 years later. You know, I truly don't think that. It's just like it with anything else in life. You know, physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually, you got to have some consistency if you want to see progress. And, you know, because Ruth was consistent, she saw progress, she got noticed by Boaz, bam, the rest is history. The rest is history. So, Nick, talk to me, man. Consistency, you got, let's do 1 minute, man. You got 1 minute starting now. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is extremely important, and we talk about this a lot, and I think it's been heavy on my mind a lot, is trying to be more consistent, not only, you know, just in, you know, my personal life, but, you know, in the spiritual life, trying to be more consistent about reading the Bible, being more consistent about surrounding myself with positivity. I think that's another huge thing, is trying to, because a lot of us are, who we are. Who we are is based on the people around us and the situations around us and the energy around us. And I think we've noticed that decline sometimes in our emotional health and our physical health, just because we put ourselves in negative situations with negative people, and we think negatively. So just trying to be more consistent about that positivity. And I think another thing for the everyday Christian to remember again is that consistency about coming to church every Sunday and putting yourself in that situation where if you came to church one Sunday a month, come in 2 Sundays a month, and if you did progress. It 2, do it 3.
Absolutely.
Progress, and then getting consistently better with your progress. And I think that's where we need to strive to be, and strive to move forward. So just making sure that we are consistent as an everyday Christian, consistent as a person and as a human being, making sure that we are making an impact as consistently as we can.
Absolutely. I love it very much. So if you have listened to anything tonight, take Nick's words to heart. Be consistent in everything that you do. Be consistent if you want to see progress. We thank you for listening to this episode of The Everyday Christian, entitled Starting From Nothing. As always, we say Facebook, Fruition Church; YouTube, Fruition Church of Hodgenville; website, www.fruitionchurchky.org. And as always, you can listen to The Everyday Christian across all available platforms. This is Pastor Keenan for my sidekick, Nick. We thank you. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a wonderful week in the name of Jesus.